Like to welcome everyone to this session under our leadership series. And to those of you who are not familiar with YDMA, it stands for Young Digital Managers Association. It's a program for the direct reports of CIOs in India and who are one step away from becoming CIOs themselves, either in the same organization or different organization. And they typically head IT functions like infrastructure, applications, security, and so on and so forth. So they're all senior professionals in their own right, and who are moving from being functional leaders to business leaders, or take larger responsibilities. Also on the call are many CIOs, so welcome to all of you as well. And if you would like to have your direct reports join the forum, you can reach out to Abhishek or me, and we'll help you enroll your direct reports to YDMA. Now, Leadership Series is our attempt to expose the leaders in the IT functions in organizations in India, both CIOs and YDMA members, to insights from some of the stalwarts in the Indian business ecosystem. And this is our fifth conversation in this series. And in this series, I'm very pleased to welcome Mr. Harish Mehta, who's co-founder and the first elected president of NESCOM. He has played a stellar role in the growth of NESCOM from its inception to today, as to make it one of the world's most successful industry associations, and therefore to the growth of the IT industry itself. He has authored a bestseller titled The Maverick Effect, which is a story of the rise of India's IT industry and therefore of India alongside it. IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry has instituted a Maverick Award inspired by the book. And I'm sure Harish will tell us a little bit more about it in his opening remarks. He's also contributed to India's innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem by bringing the Indus Enterprise, or TIE, to India, and by promoting the Angel Network in the Western Indian region. Harish will share his insights from his illustrious career journey on innovation, entrepreneurship, and of course, leadership. So like always, he'll speak for about 15 minutes to 20 minutes. And thereafter, we'll open up the floor for your questions. So if you have any questions while he's presenting, please type them in the chat space, and I'll pick those up after he finishes presenting his opening remarks. So with that, I'd like to hand the floor over to Harishi to deliver his opening remarks. And welcome again, Harishi, to the Leadership Series of YDMA.
Thank you, Pawan. Thank you for, first of all, inviting me to come and share my views. And thank you for your kind introduction. I just have one caveat that I'm used to speaking non-stop 45 minutes. So 15 minutes is not going to be sufficient. So please stop me at an appropriate time.
I will. That's my role as a moderator. So I will warn you when.
So I'm just warning you in advance that I just go on and on. See, after becoming an author, I became a storyteller. Yes. And in my book, there are hundreds of stories. I mean, in some sense. So there is no end to telling the stories. And luckily here, I don't see anybody. So I'll be able to stop it in 15 minutes. But if I see the audience, it's very different based on expression. I keep changing my speech and enjoy doing it. So friends, basically, what I'm going to talk about is, if you've not read the book, and if you are not familiar with the history of India in a sense that how India became a fourth largest economy, or how India became a global tech powerhouse. Was it by accident? Was it by luck? And again, that's where I put my stake on the ground. So NASSCOM started from my home office, in 1988. So in some sense, sitting in the front seat, I have seen how India has changed over the last 35 years, how IT industry has changed over the last 35 years, and how NASSCOM has grown, and how NASSCOM has influenced the IT industry, which in turn has influenced changing of India. So I say that NASSCOM built a city where TCS, Wipro, Infosys built their skyscrapers, as well as has given birth to thousands of new startups from that same ecosystem. And that is the contribution of NASSCOM. And depending on the time and the question, I'll try to explain some of the things we did and how we did, where it became such a global successful. See, if you go back for a few minutes in the past, in the late 80s when NASSCOM started, India, it was known as the snake charmer's country, fakir's country. We were bankrupt on foreign exchange. If you remember, 91, we had to
Absolutely.
mortgage gold because we didn't have hardly 2 weeks of supply of import. If you wanted to buy fruits, your parents will say, let's go to Kashmir. If you want to buy a scooter, you right? Let's say you're going to college and you need a scooter. After you pay the advance, by the time you get married and your two children, scooter would be delivered to you. Even the phone was taking 3 years to landline phone to get it at home. So from there to today, India has changed dramatically. If you look at this IT industry, for example, last year industry earned $289 billion, out of which I think 175 to 180 must be in net foreign exchange earning in a way. And if you look at the last 20 years total of the foreign exchange earning of the industry, it exceeds $1 trillion. Now you can imagine the impact of that $1 trillion on India. Now, we earn as much as Saudi Arabia today. But the difference is in Saudi Arabia, the money goes in one account and has only 5 crore population versus in India, through thousands of companies into millions of accounts.
Yeah.
Now, that is because of you don't see the kind of change that is in Saudi versus the change happening in India. Industry employs today 5.8 million engineers, which is all high paying, high disposable income jobs, which you all know. Now, as per Ernst & Young, each job in turn creates 4 to 5 additional jobs in the society. And if you take a family of 4, our industry by and large supports twice the population of UK. Now, if you look at in terms of seeds of cultural transformation that industry planted, starting with corporate transparency, our industry players were the first ones in the stock market to release their quarterly reports, which were quite very transparent and following the world global standards of governance. And over time, we built India's brand as a trusted nation when the FDI monies started flowing in. Of course, then the SEBI came up with a committee and made it compulsory for all the corporate players in the market to follow those or similar standards. And that built India's brand as a trusted nation. If you look at meritocracy, in our industry, everyone got a job because what they knew, not because they knew someone to get a job. So, person at IIT Bombay's gardener's son became a software engineer because he learned software, appeared for the test, and got the job. Our industry employs today 2 million women, 38% women. Now, just imagine these women earning high disposable in money. What kind of change they are bringing in the way they are bringing up their children, their contribution to their family, to their communities, and the work environment. In my view, there's a silent revolution taking place from behind. Now, that has ended up creating overall a new middle class in the country. It created aspirations in tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, and whatnot. And I believe very strongly, actually, by me, Dr. Sumantra Gosal of London School of Economics, he passed away. So he used to say that 1,000 years of downwards economic spiral of India was arrested by NASSCOM-led IT industry. In other, it can be interpreted that if we got political independence in 47, but we got economic independence maybe 8, 10 years back because of the contribution of IT industry to India. And if you look at it from the percentage growth wise, in the first 30 years, industry delivered 30% compounded growth. If you ask Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, the famous stock market. Again, he also passed away. He used to say that if you earn 18% return on equity in the stock market, you are a king. And if you earn 21%, you are an emperor. Now, here is an industry that delivered 30% compounded over 30 years. Today, it may be around 25.7% compounded over 35 years. So that, how did it happen? Again, what is it? Was it an accident? Was it by luck? So that is where I call it, it happened because of the maverick effect that was created by NASSCOM members. Maybe can I request Abhishek to play the video right now? Okay, which will sort of define what maverick effect is.
There are many mavericks we all know of, but this film is not about mavericks. It's about the maverick effect. So, what exactly is the maverick effect? Is it about an individual or an organization? Maybe, but certainly not just that. In fact, it's much, much more. It is a collective of dynamic, diverse stakeholders with a shared vision, including fierce competitors who understand the need to collaborate and co-create. They manage their multiple troops, internal conflicts, contradictions, and self-interests. They always ask themselves, is there a long-term benefit? Is it going to grow the ecosystem? Is the growth transformative and sustainable? Is it good for the country? They are lifelong learners, their synergies flowing to nurture a thriving ecosystem. A structured group that promotes a culture of values, feedback, and reimagination. A platform where every voice matters, irrespective of stature and preeminence. They are a secure and confident collective. They stand shoulder to shoulder with a sense of complete ownership, whose vision is not just personal agenda or shareholders' profit, striving for consensus and highest common denominator, rising above individuals, speaking in a single voice, united by a common purpose, focused on abundance mindset to put industry first. This group has its own conscience keepers. Enlightened self-interest for sustained transformation is the essence of the maverick effect. Join us
Thank you.
and share your own maverick effect story.
Thank you. So, friends, you just saw the video. Now, on every uh, attribute of the maverick effect which it talks about, like keeping India first, be consensus driven, have a single voice, identifying signal from the noise. I have a real story behind each of one of these attribute in the book. So I don't have time to cover all those attributes and the book stories behind each one of that. But I'll start with the start, how we started NASSCOM as a starting point. Then we'll get into one or two stories, and then I'll open it up for Q&A. So when we started NASSCOM, because that is the first question you asked about Pranav, how we built an institute of. There is a saying by one very famous French economist which says, without individuals, you cannot build anything, but nothing will last without an institute. So that was very clear when we started NASSCOM as a very foundational principle that whatever we do, it has to be long-term in nature. It's the easy one. We have a passion, enthusiasm to start an association or any new thing, but to sustain it requires a very different skills, and it requires that purpose. It requires in our industry changing technologies, so you should be able to reimagine your future continuously. So that all those parameters we discussed. We also studied all the other associations at that time. CII didn't exist probably, but like CII, FICCI, SOCHAM, and we said do's and don'ts about studying it. Okay, what do we do? Now, in the late 80s, there was a trust deficit between the policymakers and the industry. It was a socialistic license raj. Profit was a dirty word. This bureaucrats didn't know what is software. They didn't know how to spell software. And there were hundreds of regulations choking the industry. But on the other end, There was an IDG report which said the total outsourcing market is $300 billion, and we were at hardly 20, 30, 40 million dollars. So we could see huge potential provided we unlock industry from these regulations. There was no communication pipe. You'll be surprised that we used to use a 9.8 kb analog line to send our data. It's impossible to frankly do it. Can't even send large files, it will break 15 times. You keep sending it, you waste time. But some data would go through and whatnot. But from there, we had to do work with the government to see that the pipe is laid from Singapore to Chennai to Mumbai to Dubai, and we get connected to the world. Because without that fiber, there is no chance of industry growing. It would have been just pure onshoring, or what used to be known as a body shopping in those days as a business. So anyway, so we had to work on all those issues to work at it. And we decided that in order to build trust, we will not bribe any officer in spite of hundreds of regulations choking it. We will not do that. Even any company who gives presentation at NASSCOM, since we said, okay, yeah, we said, okay, we'll build NASSCOM as an independent, neutral, trustworthy platform. Now, so we said we'll decide our parameters around it. So where we said any company who gives presentation, they will not be allowed to use the logo. Because but the company would say, listen, I'm putting in all the effort that's going to help the industry, it's going to help everyone. At least give me some credit. We said, no, it violates our principle of neutrality. If your name is there, it still again conveys your some personal agenda behind it. And we are very clear that there should not be any personal agenda when we meet as a group at NASSCOM. So anyways, like this, there are a number of such principles we decided, and we kept on evolving over time and keep improving in order to see that the NASSCOM remains relevant for today's environment. So that has been a challenge, constant challenge, and we've been working on it. So now, from there we started, and let me give one example of how we built no personal agenda. And I give one story here. The government took a delegation to Russia. They had taken pharma delegation, they took IT delegation. And there were 400 to 500 CEOs of Russian industry in the auditorium. Now, NASSCOM had to give a presentation. The question is, who will give the presentation? So Som Mittal, he was our president of NASSCOM. So normally he would give the presentation. But Som looked around and he saw Harsh Manglik, who was chairman of Accenture India and also chairman of NASSCOM, being part of the delegation. So he said, Harsh should give a presentation. So he asked Harsh to give a presentation. Harsh looked around and he saw N. Chandra, our current Tata Sons chairman. He's the largest IT company of India, which is TCS, and their CEO is with us. So Chandra should give a presentation. So they asked Chandra to give a presentation. So Chandra said, of course I'll do it. But then they said, but one caveat, what? In this presentation, there are 4 case studies of your competitors. Will you speak? Without blinking, Chandra said, yes, I'm speaking on behalf of India. And they did. So that is, my friends, no personal agenda.
Yeah.
Now, this story is in my book. When Som Mittal read the book, he called me and said, Harish bhai, I had forgotten that story. I'm very happy that you remembered and you wrote it. Again, to me, friends, that is, and I asked him what was going through your mind. He says, I don't know, I just did it very naturally. I was not carrying heavy weight in my head saying that I'm sacrificing it and giving it to Harsh Manglik and whatnot. I just thought it's a natural thing to do. And friends, to me, that is culture. Because when some people behave and do the right way of saying it, makes a huge impact. And that is the culture. Our job, who are the former past chairpersons, is to protect that culture and nurture that culture, strengthen that culture. And it has reached a point today where some of you know that Rajesh Nambiar, who was chairman of NASSCOM, and he was chairman of Cognizant India. Last year, when Debjani's term was getting over as a NASSCOM president in October, 6 months before we started the selection process. And we have a set process we use to select the next president. Rajesh got enthused going through what we were all going through, and he decided to throw in his name. So we asked Rajesh, you have 270,000 employees under you at Cognizant. At NASSCOM, we have only 300. Would you be ready to, you think you'll be able to adjust to that new environment? And he said, Harish bhai, no, I don't look at it that way. I look at 5.3 million employees of the industry as my virtual group. And I need to worry about that and nurture them and grow them and whatnot. Wow, I said, I mean, such a person who from that position working for a for-profit to come to non-profit. So I said, what attracts you? He said, what attracts me is the impact NASSCOM can make on India. So that's what we are very proud of what we have done so far, and we will continue to do so. Do I have time for more stories or?
Yes, please. I think another 5 to 7 minutes is in order
Okay, fair
because
enough.
I think there is a lot of value in what you're
So
saying.
I'll talk about one another story on collaboration now. Now, how does, I mean, you may remember a little bit after seeing the video that we talked about creative juices flowing to solve the problem. So in the early 90s, we had positioned India as a back office of the world. And we were doing work for a number of multinationals. So those multinationals like IBM, GE, and many were very happy with the kind of work industry was doing. So and in those days, they were not allowed equity more than 40% in India. So they asked us, why don't we would like to set up 100% ownership and set up a back office in India. Anyway, this work we will not give it to you because it's our internal confidential work. But we would like to really come to India. Now, when this proposal came to NASSCOM, now imagine what we would all be discussing. So suddenly somebody said, listen, government has given us natural protection. Why do we allow them to come in? Somebody said, if they come, they'll take away our people paying twice the salary. Somebody said, if we allow them to come in under the back office name, they'll take away the current business which you are doing. So there will be lots of fears about giving them 100% equity. But then there's another group, and that's where we had started building that trustworthiness internally. So we had a huge challenge when we started NASSCOM. There was no trust internally first. Forget about with the policymakers. But we had done a number of things to build that trust. And we had few victories by which people were opening up and talking about it. So somebody said, yeah, but look at our quality processes. They're all homegrown. If they come, we would learn a lot from them. Then someone said, yeah, if they come and if we start doing work and they are happy, like if IBM comes, argument's sake, IBM's budget is $1 billion, I don't know, few $1 billion, maybe that will start opening up where an industry can grow. So it can build the brand India. So that was also making sense. And that tussle was going on. At the same time, there was a tussle going on in USA. Okay, who is us? In those days, Japanese companies had made major inroads. So was it Panasonic, Motorola, or whatever, sorry, what other companies, Mitsubishi, is us or is it NASSCOM, IBM, Whirlpool, us? So same question came up in our group. Who is us? Is India-based companies is us? Is it NRI-owned companies is us? And in that process, somebody said, whoever develops, and I don't know who said that, but he said that whoever develops human capital of India is us. Everybody latched on it. That makes a lot of sense. So will these MNCs develop human capital of India? Answer was very clear, yes. So we all agreed. Again, we went around the table. We asked Mr. Kohli of TCS, do you agree? We asked Mr. Murthy of Infosys, do you agree? We asked Mr. Azim Premji of Wipro, do you agree? Like that, we went every member. We took so we didn't want them to, as was happening in other associations, if we give a proposal to the government and after a week they go to the government and say, we don't agree. So we had decided very early in the game, okay, we can fight internally as much as we want. But once we take a decision, outside we'll have a single voice. So we ensure that there's a single voice here internally. And then we met the finance minister. That Dr. Manmohan Singh was the finance minister at that time. So some of his officers, one officer said after listening to our recommendation, वापस इस इंडिया की तरह देश को बेचने आ गए. Now, so in a way, they were right partly. Then somebody said, "तुम किसके दलाल हो? Why are you suggesting this?" But we had a couple of levers in our hand. Like one was earning foreign exchange. India was bankrupt in foreign exchange, creating jobs in the country. There was no jobs in the country. So Dr. Manmohan Singh saw the value behind what we were saying, and he agreed to give birth to what is now known as GCC or Global Capability Centers. That single decision which we took today employs 2.2 million engineers, earns $40 billion of foreign exchange. They are doing state of the art. Some of them have become partners with the parent companies and driving their agenda. So they've grown extremely well from that perspective. But look at that group analysis, how individuals came forward, were ready to, we can say, give up short-term benefit for the long term. How we could identify a signal from the noise, because it could easily say no. How we welcome competition, global competition at our own home ground. There was a positive side also, because we would have learned the hard way by spending in dollars, learning about them, versus they're right here and you're learning an Indian cost structure in a way. So anyway, there are very pluses and minuses. So that's the benefit of that collaborative, trusted network where people can open up, the creative juices flow, and you end up solving almost an impossible problem in a very positive way.
Yeah.
That's what I saw.
Yeah, fantastic. I think that's a growth mindset. And you not just look at the share of the pie, but you expand the pie and
Yeah.
look where we reached because of that one decision. So it's a really, really remarkable story. I think many of us may not have known the origin of how Indian industry came to be competitive. And the Indian industry, if we quote unquote, the Indian industry, which is Infosys, TCS, Wipros of the world, they've not stopped growing as a consequence. If anything, they've grown leaps and bounds because of that competition and become much better in the process.
Absolutely.
So power of, and giving up your protectionist instinct is the beginning of becoming great. So it's a fantastic story. Thank you for sharing that with us. So we'll open up for questions, and while questions, come from the audience, I'd like to ask you a question. You mentioned several, people who became presidents of NESCOM at different points in its journey, starting with Devang Mehta, right in the beginning, to Kiran Kanik subsequently, who's incidentally also spoken in the leadership series.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
The immediate past session was with him. And then, of course, many other people like Debjani you mentioned and others. So, and they all have different kinds of experiences. They came with different, life. So, how is there an active effort to match what they bring to the table with what NESCOM or the industry needed at that time? Because what Devang could accomplish back then, he may not have been able to accomplish what, under the circumstances in which Debjani led NESCOM. So how important is the personality of the leader to take the institution forward?
See, just to tell a little bit story about Devang, first of all, how we recruited Devang. I was in Delhi, and then one day I was having coffee with him, and while he was reading the newspaper, there were tears in his eyes. I said, Devang, why there are tears in your eyes? He said, when will our country change? In Gujarati, he told me, Apno desh kya sudharse, or when will our country change? There was some corruption case as an headline. So when we were looking for someone to run NASCOM, I talked to my committee members, what about Devang? He doesn't have IT services background, but he's competent, he's chartered accountant, X, Y, and Z. He's very articulate, aggressive. So I approached Devang. I said, would you join NASCOM? He started laughing. He said, are you mad? Why would I join a non-profit? I have a great career at Orissa Cement as a ADB manager. Let me continue. I don't want to join. I said, listen, Devang, we're very passionate about changing India. Here is an opportunity that can help you contribute your ways of changing it. And then there's lots of other stories about him. And he joined. And when he joined, he was a superhuman being from that perspective of doing, as you just said, outstanding work.
Yeah.
But what happened was, after 7, 8 years of his, he was so successful that he became much larger than life. He became larger than NASCOM. And he started taking steps which were not in the way we would have liked to see NASCOM behave. Process driven, not to mislead ever, not to so. But he ended up doing many of those things, which probably, and you'll read in my book some of those stories also. But he was doing fantastic work as a president. But then suddenly he passed away at the age of 39.
That's right.
Unfortunately, we had no succession planning process in place at that time. That time, we were not even sure whether NASCOM will survive or not. After he going away, I mean, how do you replace such a person? And then there were competing organizations were ready to say, okay, we will represent IT, we'll do this, we'll do that, all kinds of issues. But luckily, we had a full support of our own industry. Okay, no, let's go ahead and start the process of selecting. So that time we thought through clearly and we developed a proper succession planning process, and which is what we are using it today also. So what we did at that time was we reimagined industry, where the industry would be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and work backward, and we say, fold the future back. And we developed the roadmap, and then we said, okay, rough, I mean, then what is the role of NASCOM? And in that role of NASCOM, what is the role of president? So we developed the job description. Then we appointed a recruitment agency. It was Korn Ferry at that time, then Egon Zehnder and whatnot. So we gave the job description to them. And we said, now you develop the attributes, skills, experience needed to fulfill this. And we also gave them, we still give them 8 to 10 domain areas, like to look for people. For example, NRI community, academia, apart from IT industry, corporate, NGOs. And so you find the best top 10 individuals in each category. They don't know that we are looking at them. This is about our internal work.
Right.
And after they have picked 100 best of best Indian who will sort of meet the job description, then the agency will go out and meet and talk to each one of them. 70-80% will straight away say no, because they are successful, doing so well, and wealth creation is the main focus. So they have no interest in looking at NASCOM joining non-profit. Then we jump in, all of us, from the search committee as well as whoever's help we need. And we talk to them and try to sell NASCOM to them. And that's how Kiran Karni got selected. That's how Somittal came in, or Shekhar, or Devjani. And each one has gone through their own crisis and whatnot during their tenure. Done brilliantly, outstanding job, I would say. And hopefully now with the Rajesh Nambiar also will continue that contribution.
Yeah. Is it a coincidence that some of the latest hires, if I may say so, are from IT industry, but not from outside? Is that because the industry is now so mature, it has its own set of problems and issues that only an industry person can really understand? So hypothetically, someone who's an academician or someone who's from pharma industry or automotive, they cannot come and play that role. Is that right?
Sorry?
Is that the right interpretation, that that's why you have people mainly from IT industry coming up now? Kiran wasn't from IT industry. He came from...
Nobody, no. See, to us that at the level of NASCOM president, they should know technology. That is very clear.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it is challenging in terms of working with the Indian government, working with the governments around the world, working with the... See, one of the major tenet of NASCOM is not just lobbying, is to build the ecosystem. You must have an abundance mindset. Once you grow the ecosystem, not only the existing players can grow, but you allow new ones to take birth. So there are a number of initiatives to be taken at an ecosystem level. For example, when we projected we will need 100,000 engineers 5 years from now and 200,000 engineers 10 years from now, argument's sake, there was no manpower available. How do you do that? So again, this is the president's job to get these creative juices flowing, not from only inside, but from external help also. And when, let's say, we came up with the solution that we should draft that at least 20 states should have an IT policy. So NASSCOM ended up drafting the IT policies of 20 states.
Okay.
Some of them accepted, some of them didn't accept. All that happened. But when the waves of technology came from, let's say, open whatever client server in the early 90s to then web, internet and whatnot, for each wave, academia was geared up to at least provide the raw material. And then industry had to invest to it. But writing those 20 draft IT policies of the states was a major thing where the president's job is.
Yeah.
It doesn't require IT in that sense, but it requires that thought process and then thinking and implementing it. So we were all very clear that IT or technology is not, would be ideal if they know, but if they don't, it's fine with us.
Yeah. One question you mentioned that there are companies of all sizes in the IT industry ecosystem. There are the giants like Infosys and Wipro, whose quarterly profits are in billions of dollars. On the other hand, there are companies with, let's say, 100 million annual revenue, or maybe even smaller. So how is the interest of these smaller players addressed? Because if it is funded by large companies and it was started by companies which are now very large, how do you ensure that these small companies have a fair voice in the way NASSCOM approaches the growth of the industry?
See, no, so NASSCOM does not get into individual cases.
No, but size, big versus small.
We want to open up the ecosystem. So wherever the friction is, from the policy perspective or skill perspective or country perspective, NASSCOM would jump in and solve that. And the beneficiaries would be large companies also, as the small companies also. So there is no, in that sense, some companies would leverage it far better than others. So NASSCOM is very alert to solving the issues of small companies. And we all were small when we started. So we understand our psyche and our ways of doing it. But yeah, democratizing opportunities has been the fundamental pillar of NASSCOM. Today also, when we take decisions, as I said, like whoever develops human capital of India is 4951, will tilt in that favor. Not tilt in the favor of, let's say, 7 companies who are large and they want X, Y, and Z.
Correct.
So we look at various parameters, and in a discussion, everyone has a voice. And then I call it, some of us, we are self-appointed conscious keepers. So we allow that small voice to come up if there is a sense, getting discussion and then get converted into policy or whatever. And then we carry all the large companies also with that game plan. If they have any issues, we try to sort it out that also. So sometimes we have to compromise, we come with a composite view. And then the composite view is suggested to the government. But it is to always try to be with the consensus and try to solve the issue at the highest common denominator. So it's very easy to say no at the lowest common denominator, any change. Or when big celebrity CEO says everybody will stop, arguments. All those are part of day-to-day challenges for us to work at. But we try our best that we solve the issue at a much higher level. To give another example, like large companies, they saw the need for, when they projected the numbers, that existing IITs and existing regional engineering colleges will not produce the global managers that they need. It needed a multidisciplinary IT background. So working with the government, a solution came which was creating triple IITs. And the entire triple IIT was conceived by NASSCOM and the UGC together, structure and whatever. So today we are now 25 triple IITs doing so well.
Correct.
So this decision benefits everybody.
Everybody.
In that sense,
That's right. Question from a participant in this session. It's about the MeitY NASSCOM COE. How is that fueling India's innovation engine? So MeitY, Ministry of Electronics and IT. and NESCOM, they have a COE, they started some COE. How's that helping India become more innovative?
See, okay, let me give a high level view.
Mhm.
Face recognition algorithm,
Yeah.
it took 32 different research groups over 30 years to come up with the final algorithm.
Mhm.
We need to build similar culture in India. And
Mhm.
maybe we are 10 years behind, probably.
Yeah.
And we say jokingly, okay, we're only 75 years old. So
Mhm.
we haven't got all these processes still worked out from government to industry to academia. And there are lots of challenges all across. So
Yeah.
COE is the starting point of
Mhm.
creating that innovative mindset and innovative ways of solving problems. So at least you start with some and build on it. So like that, there are so many initiatives are needed across to see that ultimately India would emerge as a innovation country.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. There's a question, it's about how do you approach decision making in times of digital uncertainty? I'm assuming because of high pace of change, this question originates from there. It could be about you as an individual leader, or you could, address it as how will NESCOM address, the changing world. You can address that at any of the two levels.
My first advice is don't listen to us. As a mentor, I always tell everybody, okay, you have your own, develop your own critical thinking, independent thinking to
Mhm.
manage change. I
Uh-huh.
mean, yes, we can share our experience, but the way I see the world is changing so fast, so different that
Mhm.
it may not be relevant to what we have done would work for you.
Mhm.
And I think Peter Diamond is given an example that our brain is only 100,000 years old
Mhm.
and it does only linear thinking. And to all of us who are in the technology world know that each technology what do you call exponentially multiplying.
Mhm.
Every 6 months, AI power doubles, and the
Mhm.
combination of AI plus research doubles further. I mean, all kinds of
Mhm.
what do you call exponential growth is happening all across.
Correct.
And we as people are not ready to learn how to, we are not trained to
Mhm.
manage the exponential mindset.
Correct.
To me, that is the starting point for any uncertainty management. To change your mindset to think exponentially.
Mhm. Okay, right. Thank you. Um, a question about specifically about CIO's role. How can a CIO align with ever-changing IT landscape? I think you partly answered by saying that you must have an exponential thinking mindset. And the question is, how can they keep themselves updated with new technologies to sustain in the current business environment? In
See,
other
I'll tell
words,
you, from CIO perspective, I'm not an expert on it, but what I do know is that uh, you know about all the AI challenges that are facing after the ChatGPT came out. Within 6 months, they were saying industry will have will lay off X number of people, Y number of people. 2.5 years have passed. Industry is still going very strong, and we're still seeing industry going strong. Yes, there's a major stress, churn, all that is happening internally. Certain jobs are getting eliminated, but the new jobs are getting created, and all that is happening as part of it. But I do believe that India will emerge as a global AI application leader. Now,
Mhm.
the thought is that it will be now, since India also has changed so beautifully in terms of using technologies, the CIOs who are part of it, there
Mhm.
is a one prediction that third parties or industry service providers and the CIOs, or there's a certain corporate groups, the domain knowledge which they have, which industry has in a limited way, together, if they solve those problems in India,
Mhm.
then they can be able to grow globally.
Yeah.
What is now defined as industrial AI may emerge out of India.
Mhm. Yeah.
That will be far more powerful or as powerful as say some product, let's say you can call it business. So I would recommend, suggest to CIOs to think far beyond your job.
Mhm.
Look at the total ecosystem and see how you can continuously contribute in that area.
Yeah. You mentioned the fact that if we can solve some problems locally, and there are all kinds of, giant problems that we have, and if you solve them for India, you can solve them for anywhere in the world. I think it's
Yeah.
the pressure testing of any solution can be done in India. But the IT industry, and you spoke about the foreign exchange aspect and so on, and it's a reality that from its inception, the industry has looked outside of India for business, primarily Western Europe. Um, would you say that that's a missed opportunity, or rather the industry has not given due focus to either the opportunities in India or uh, both commercially or even otherwise, trying to help solve the local problems. And there's nothing wrong. I mean, that's a business model. You have to maximize value.
You're talking of product business,
I'm talking of IT services business. I'm saying
IT
that
products like Google,
IT services
Microsoft,
like
Google,
Infosys,
whatever.
TCS. Yeah, so their focus has been in getting business from Western Europe and the US. They are the primary markets. So the opportunity to work closely with the Indian clients or Indian government, do you think that has been given enough um, importance in the business models of for the IT services companies? And can NASSCOM change that? Increase the focus on the local market so that we can solve some problems locally and then take those solutions to the world.
Again, since we started NASSCOM, we've been trying that and not successful. Okay. And the number of reasons behind it. Even we came up with so one problem, let's say working with the government. Government itself can be a 50% buyer of
That's
our
right.
services.
Mhm.
So we even came up with the entire model of how to do business with government in terms of RFQ.
Yeah,
If you still see the RFQs are so terrible by terms and conditions wise, why would
yeah,
anybody quote? As simple as that.
correct.
Remember one quotation I had given one of the company, it was 57 crores and the budget was 10 crores. He said, how
Mhm.
can it be 57 crores? He said, but every condition, my lawyer in Hong Kong said these are the risk factors. And so he added to it. So that is the price you have to pay. So we
Ah,
have tough challenges from that perspective.
yes.
Indian corporate world didn't grow for the
Ah,
ages, just started growing in the last 10 years. And
mhm.
BFSI was the first one to take the lead. And they've started automating. So if you see BSC, NEC, and the many
Yeah.
other banks, they all started automation in certain way. So that is all.
Uh-huh.
Outside the domestic market is still way behind
Mhm.
using the current state of art solutions. So
Mhm.
if that is not the case, I mean, how do you build and go global?
Correct. That's
So
right.
that there are what do you call uh, and, of course, profit, for example, in a local market versus
Yeah,
outside, dollar versus rupee,
that's
similar
right.
effort. So again,
Mhm.
that will be local would be lower from that perspective. But still, there are many Indian companies believe that they would prefer ideally 50% revenue coming from domestic market and
Yeah.
50% coming from exports. They've been
Mhm.
struggling for the last 30 years, and the local market is remaining 5% versus 95%. I'll tell you a
Correct.
funny story also. When Ravi Shankar Prasad took over as IT minister, he had
Mhm.
called 25 CEOs
Mhm.
of the IT industry with the NASSCOM meeting. What
Yeah.
can we do together? And so, like Google person said, I will digitize the country in 3 years, and X, Y, and Z. So those are the tough challenges
Yeah.
that industry has working in the with the
Mhm.
government in that. So a lot has to happen, a lot has to change
Mhm.
for services per se as a
Yeah.
business model. Now, small companies, take example of small companies. There is a 10% TDS.
Mhm.
Now, when the small company is quoting, the margin is just 15%. 10% is
Mhm.
taken away by the government in TDS. You will not get it back for 3 years.
Yeah. Okay.
So why should you do that business?
Correct. Yeah.
Of course, there's a now lower TDS and you get their certificate. And but why go through the whole? Why would anybody, no entrepreneur would be excited to work in such a market?
Correct.
And we have given hundreds of suggestions, recommendations, but it's a tough call, frankly, from the politically as well as from the bureaucracy. Both are still not aligned to solve these issues. And we have this wild nexus of, I call in my book, Lala, Neta, Gunda, Java. That nexus cannot, until you break that,
Yeah.
which is another 15 years away. So there are lots of negatives about it. I'm not very positive, frankly. Sorry about it. I love to be an optimist, but in this area, I see huge challenges to overcome. See, in my book, I've got a chapter 14 identifying these structural problems which we need to solve, including the cultural changes for us
Correct.
to. And it will
Yeah.
take, it's a question of time, I think.
Yeah, it's ironical that India has some of the largest IT services firms or the workforce, but the local utilization is very minimal.
Yeah.
And if that can change, India can really go places. So with you, I hope that
Yeah.
it will happen.
Yeah. No, it will happen. I thought there's a very extreme, there are lots of positive green shoots all over.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're also all moving in the right direction. But it will still take time before I would say,
Yeah,
until we break that nexus at the top.
yeah.
I
Great.
call it invisible burst, killing the aspirations of millions. So this industry, from that perspective, part of a little bit of that. And if all CIOs can come together, create NASSCOM equivalent structure, work at these issues, I'm positive you will find extremely positive response from many officers in the government, many politicians in the government, and like what NASSCOM has done for exports in some ways, we can do it now for the CIO groups to drive that change with the government in India.
I think that's a great point. I think
And I'll tell you what, my suggestion would be
over.
yeah, and my suggestion here would be that each one of you, each CIO, to spend 10% of your time today, not when you retire, today, to solve your industry's challenges. If you can come together and start focusing on ecosystem, work selflessly, collaboratively, creative juices flowing to solve the problem, you will see wonders.
Yeah. I think that's the best advice that the participants on this call can get from anyone. Another interesting question, which hits the nail on the head, it speaks about how can we put a stop to brain drain in IT from India? Our talent leaves for other countries. Of course, to some degree, the problem is solving itself by other countries putting brakes on immigration and so on and so forth. So to some degree, I guess this will solve, and it will have other consequences, which are a separate issue. But any suggestions to make India more attractive so that we can stop the brain drain from India?
Yeah, see, we don't believe in brain drain. I'm sorry, we don't believe brain in drain. So if India cannot afford the opportunities for the brains, let them go. That's as simple as a very starting point. Now, what can be done? A lot can be done, and a lot is happening also. For example, recently, government formed Anusandhan National Research Foundation. And then Shiv Kumar, who is heading it, very, I would say, dynamic professional running that and giving money for R&D and cleaning up all the processes, improving the processes. See, that starts happening and the universities start getting the right funding and the processes which are not sort of strangulating them. Bureaucrats are not. And that money starts flowing for R&D and that kind of work. I'm sure it will prevent the brain drain. Not only it will prevent the brain drain, I believe it will give birth to product industry or innovation industry in the country. Because ultimately innovation will come out of the universities, frankly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's another question about how can leaders prepare the workforce for the coming impact of AI? Any advice or suggestions on that?
I see it, AI is a God-given gift to India. India has to create 90 million jobs over the next 10 years. Our per capita is $2,000 per person. That has to go up. So, and in India has 1,000 problems to solve. And we have, you can say, all the new technologies, especially advanced technologies of AI, may not be robotics to that extent right now, but blockchain or biotech, each of all this combination of technologies have to have potential to solve India's healthcare issues, education issues, energy issues, alternate energy issues. So I would recommend, the leaders to drive this change in a very positive way and channel their energies in solving India's problems using these technology-enabled solutions.
Yeah. So you are all in all, you are positive about the potential impact of AI on India, including on IT services industry.
Oh, absolutely. See, there will be, as any other, take IT industry.
Mhm.
How did it take birth? Automation by the Western world.
Correct. That's right.
Now the next wave of automation is coming. It will impact us. But the
Mhm.
IT industry has been seeing these impacts for the last 20 years.
That's I said,
When we
Ram.
started with machine language coding to
Yeah.
automation tools and whatnot. Yes, this time the change is faster and there are other parameters. And of course, then there is a fear that AI can eliminate humanity also. So there are
Yeah.
all other
Mhm.
challenges. But I
Mhm.
keep myself right now focused on India's need, which is 90 million jobs in 2000. What can we do? How we use these technologies? So going back 50 years, 30 years when we started NASSCOM, everybody, politicians, not politicians, the technology gatekeepers of India were scientists, educationists. They all say, why are you doing tech services? You should do software product. And we believe which is not possible in the environment that existed. They
Yeah.
even criticize us saying you are doing cyber police work, you are washing the diapers of Fortune 500. We were
Yeah.
ridiculed.
I remember Professor Yashpal saying that as well.
So we believe that, but okay, that is, while we also agree, we would like, but if it is not possible, we do what is best within the current
Correct.
environment. If it earns foreign exchange, it creates jobs. I am making money. Why not? What is wrong in that model? And the potential is $300 billion. Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't have the vision at say. When we talked about $1 billion at that time to officers, they say, do you know how many zeros are in a billion? From there to we are at $283 billion.
And overall, $1 trillion of foreign exchange. I mean,
Exactly,
that's a
all that.
very, very
So,
big number.
but we were very focused on what India's need. I mean, I shouldn't say India's needs per se, but our need as a entrepreneur to make money, and which was aligning very well with India's needs. So it was a great, what do you call, synergy
Confluence.
between the
Yeah.
two. Yeah.
So many thanks. I think we are right on top of the hour, so we'll have to draw this session to a close. Now I know what you meant, that you can speak for 45 minutes and we'll all be listening. So we should do another session with you, much longer one.
I hardly covered 10% of the stories.
I
Yeah.
know, I know. We should do maybe a series with you alone
Yeah.
at some time. So
Great,
many
great.
thanks,
Yeah.
Harishji, for joining, and many thanks to all the participants for listening, patiently, carefully, and also asking some great questions. So again, I like to remind everyone that YDMA is a program for the next rung of leaders. Please join if you have not joined already, and if you are a CIO, please ask your direct reports or encourage them to join the forum. So with that, I'm closing the call. Many thanks, and thanks Harishji again.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.